Well, everybody, just want to give my quick thoughts on the AP Preseason Top 25 poll. It came out this morning. So, number one, for the first time in program history, the preseason number one team is Gonzaga. And for me personally, I think they're the preseason number one team. And they looks like they barely edge out Baylor. That's kind of surprising. As far as these top three, these are mostly everybody's top three at this point. I personally would have Villanova number 2, Baylor number 3. That's just me. Virginia at number 4, I can see that. This is where I have a pretty big disagreement. I don't think Iowa's a top 5 team. Like, I understand people's mindsets that they're geared toward offense. They return a lot of production, right? But their defense was a major issue last year. And they lost a lot of games. I think they lost like 9 or 10 games. I just don't know if they're a top 5 team. Kansas, I honestly think this team is kind of underrated in a way. Kind of odd to see that they're at 6. But I honestly would put them in the top 4. I think they'll be right there with Baylor to compete for the Big 12 title. Wisconsin, this is about where I would have them. I think they're top 10. I guess one reason for concern is that they won the Big 10 last year, but those final 5, 6, 7 games or so were pretty easy, to be honest. So we'll see how they do against this year's Big 10 schedule. But they did round 4 after Micah Potter was included into the team and was eligible. Now, Illinois, this is a team that I am extremely high on. Illinois, in my opinion, should replace Iowa at this number 5 spot. They got talent all over the floor. And I think they should be the preseason favorite in the Big 10 over Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan State. Duke at 9, kind of pretty old Duke team. Except this time, they actually returned at least some production from last year. They got Matthew Hurt, Wendell Moore, also back. They pull out a grad transfer too, as well as decline with Jalen Johnson and their usually elite class of freshmen. I think they probably second in the ACC. I like Virginia a little bit better than them at the moment. Kentucky, I think this is kind of an underrated spot for them. I think I would have them higher than 10. Again, odd to say, it's only a couple of spot difference, but I think Kentucky will be higher than this when we look back at this in March. Maybe a little bit rough. They return for the least amount of production in the entire sport. But naturally, I think they could struggle a little bit earlier. But when March rolls around, I think they should be rolling. And I honestly think Kentucky should be the favorite over Tennessee. I know Tennessee's a popular pick at the moment, but I like Kentucky. Creighton, again, this team could have been really good if Alexander came back, but unfortunately that did not happen. And really unfortunate for them too this past week. they did lose a couple of their freshmen, and well, I think that does matter because definitely when you're going against what should be pretty good Big East conference this year. So that definitely stings a little bit there. But they still got very good players and high-powered offense. So at Tennessee, yeah, a very popular pick in the SEC. I think they will be good, though. Don't get me wrong, I think they will be good. I think Kentucky's just a little bit better by the time we get to March. Michigan State. If this is a season, if there's a chance that someone other than MSU wins the Big Ten this year, it has to be this season. Losing a great in Cassius Winston, no Xavier Tillman. They got a lot of reloading to do, a lot of freshmen, sophomore, juniors who need to prove themselves. Rocket Watts being key there. So this has got to be a year for Iowa and Illinois, Wisconsin to take the Big Ten crown. Moving on, Texas Tech. I think this is probably where I would slot them, somewhere between 14, 15, 16. They've got a lot of talent they pulled in this offseason. VCU transfer and Santos Silva and McClung from Georgetown, as well as their recruits, Amari Burnett, and a lot of returning players too. An alarming thing was that Texas Tech was further on the bubble than people kind of realized last season, but with all the cancellations, they got a chance to reset, and per KenPom, they are probably better than their record would suggest, and they lost a lot of close games. West Virginia, this is a very interesting team. They return a ton, most notably Ashibwe and Bride and Coleman. This team lost, 5 of 6 or 6 of 7. They were tumbling down the rankings the final 5 to 6 weeks of the season, but they ended the season with a win over Baylor. So this will probably be a happy medium between KenPom, which naturally with a program like West Virginia has them in the top 10, and where they finished last year, which was, I believe, 24th in the final AP rankings. North Carolina, an epically all-time bad season last year, finishing dead last in the ACC and losing to Syracuse in the conference tournament. They've got a very, very deep front court. They got 2 big recruits in that spot, as well as returning Garrison Brooks from last year. They're going to be really good up front. That court's probably the question. If they could get that kind of figured out. That was a big issue with Anthony going down last year. They lost a lot of games because of that issue. If they can get that ironed out, they should be pretty good. Houston has become a pretty reliable program out in the American. They've won American Conference the last 2 seasons, I believe. They've made the tournament 3 straight times, including the one canceled last year. They did take a couple of hits with injuries and stuff. I believe Fabian is his name. So they have to rely on, I believe, the Arkansas transfer to help fill his void. But kind of sticking Houston and Kelvin Sampson in this 22 to 15 range seems about right. Arizona State. Now this is a team that has a wide variance of outcomes. They've got a ton of talent. Racked in recruits this past year. They've got Bagley and most notably Josh Christopher to pair with Remy Martin and Alonzo Verge. The thing with them is they need guys in the front court to step up to balance their offense. You can score enough what you need with the guards, but you need a nice stable presence in the front court, and something they really need after O'Melo White transfers to Ole Miss. And they need all the help they can get offensively because they've not been great defensively the last couple of years. So they need guys like Bagley to step in as a freshman, or Tayshaun Cherry, Jalen Graham, those guys to step up. Texas, I don't know. This might be my second overrated kind of team in this poll so far. I mean, they've got potential, but I don't know. Texas hasn't really done that much as a program since, really mostly this decade. And especially since Smart has gone there. They've got no tournament wins. And I know Texas is a popular pick because of the way they finished last season, but don't forget, the last game of the season at home, they got blasted by Oklahoma State team that probably was NIT at best. So I've got some reservations about Texas, but they do have a pretty high ceiling along with Arizona State, but pretty low floors for both those two teams. Oregon, again, I think is slightly overrated, at least in this poll. We'll see. They've got a bunch of transfers. Omar Rui, who was a sit-out from Rutgers. Hardy, who I believe was from ULV. And Duquesne, I'm blanking on his name. But the fact that they just lose Peyton Pritchard, and Peyton Pritchard kind of carried them at times when the rest of the team didn't step up. And even then, while they're Pac-12 champions, they still lost games to Stanford and Oregon State and Washington State. And without him, I kind of like some of these other teams a little bit better than Oregon just for the moment. You'll have to see also Figueroa if he gets eligible. If he is, I might change my opinion a little bit. Florida State team I think is kind of underrated. I would slot them in at least in the top 20, probably closer to 15. I know they're losing a lot. They lose Vassell. They've got Scotty Barnes, who is a top 10 recruit coming in. And Leonard Hamilton, Kelvin Sampson at Houston has built them into a respectable, stick them in the top 25 kind of team. And they had a really high finish. They won the ACC. And I honestly think they're better than North Carolina. is for me right now. UCLA at number 22. I don't know if I would have this team ranked. I mean, I know they had a hot finish, kind of like Texas. They had a hot finish. But they finished 78th at Ken Palm. I want to see just a little bit more. So part of me, I have some reservations about the Bruins because they were brutal to start the season this past year. Ohio State, another team, I don't know if I would have them ranked. Personally, I think they're a little bit more toward top 35 than top 25. Again, injuries, depth, it's taking a toll on them now. Seth Towns could be back at non-conference play, I believe, but not too sure. He hasn't been healthy last year, and I hope he comes back for the program, but as of right now, I wouldn't have them ranked. They really need some scoring because with the Wesson brothers both gone, and with the kid that transferred to Marquette, DJ Carton, he's gone. Muhammad is gone. They need guys to step up and score. Rutgers, I kind of like this team. I really hope they're good this season. Getting a chance to play in the tournament last season, but it was taken away. I hope they're good. And they should be good. Again, they got a top 50 recruit in Cliff Omoruyi, and they returned almost everybody from last season. So I think they should continue to improve. And then we got the top 25. We got Michigan. Michigan, kind of like Ohio State, got some questions about them. Exodus of some of their key players from last season. Losing out a couple of their recruits. Kind of losing the but they should be good, even though I think they're closer to the top 30 or 35 like Ohio State. It's just a function that I think some of these other teams are a little bit better than them. Others receiving votes, LSU, they return a lot. Were kind of just okay last season. They would have gotten like a 8 seed or something like that. So hopefully we'll wait and get them back to top 25 status. I would leave them out with the top 25 for now. Memphis, I think, should be in the top 25. Joining Houston, I would like Memphis to sort of rebound from the disappointment last season. Florida, I'm not really buying the Florida train. Again, Florida train last season, disappointment. Florida train the season before, they ended up with like 15 losses. I just want to see it, especially for them losing Blackshear and Nemhard. Nemhard wasn't great, but for them last season, but the recruits they got that year really weren't great either. So I can see the potential for them, but they just leave me hanging the last few seasons. Alabama, again, I really want to buy it. I I think I might have them in the top 25. But they've kind of been disappointing the last few years. I mean, they've had talent there, but they've had one tournament in the past 3 seasons, 3 or 4 seasons. Despite having that talent, last year had 15 losses. The year before that, under Avery Johnson, end up in the NIT. But I think this year is the year they finally break through. They can compete in the SEC. I'm kind of flying through because this video is kind of long. Indiana, another Big Ten team. Kind of debatable between Ohio State, Michigan, Rutgers. But I think I would have those 3 right here over Indiana at this point, just since Miller hasn't really done that well there. But I think they will make improvements this year. Louisville, I thought this was a preseason top 25 team, but without those guys, kind of like Ohio State, I think they belong down here in this others receiving votes category. But with every full strength, I think they're top 25 good, but without Midland and Malik Williams, unfortunately, I think they will take some losses. Richmond, I really like this team, despite losing Sharon to the injury. They still return a lot, and they would have made the tournament last season. I really like this team to win a competitive and deep A10 league. Stanford, I hope they get to the tournament again, kind of like Alabama, kind of been disappointing the last few seasons. And they've had some talent there. So with Zaire Williams and Oscar Da Silva, they should at least be competitive. It should compete to get into the tournament. Providence, I think Providence is kind of underrated. St. Louis, I think they will be a tournament team. Auburn, I don't know. They lose a lot, especially to be like this. I have a tough time seeing them in the top 25. San Diego State, should be still Mountain West favorites, and by default they should be competitive to get into the tournament, especially since I goes to Mountain West is going to be that great. With Utah State's moving the step and Boise State but still think SDSU is probably the best team in the conference. UConn, the Big East, should finally make it back to the tournament. BYU, I think this is kind of underrated. Loyola and Northern Iowa, too. I think there's serious potential for a Missouri Valley 2-bid league. I think they're that good. Seton Hall, this is probably the most underrated team I think is here. As a program, they've made the last 5 straight tournaments, and with grad transfer, and despite losing them, they still got a lot of good pieces back. And don't be surprised if they surprise everybody. UNC Greensboro should be competitive in the SoCon. I kind of like Furman, but another season where SoCon could get 2 bids. Alright, and that's it for this video. See you soon. And thank you for watching. And